The stadium was full of flags, cameras, and hope, and the air felt thin, as if the world itself was holding its breath, while Earth's leader walked to the glass podium beneath the open sky. He lifted his hand, waiting for the crowd to settle, and his voice, calm and warm, rolled across the seats. "Today we choose peace," he said, and people cheered, and he smiled at the silver ship hovering high like a patient moon, the alien envoy watching without movement, its hull smooth and bright. Then the smile on his face faded for a moment, a private shadow that no one else noticed, and he touched the edge of the podium as if steadying himself. A little girl in the front row gripped her mother's hand and whispered, "Is it safe?" And her mother said, "It is safe, baby. This is the start of something good." Security drones floated like quiet bees, their lights soft blue. The screens behind the leader showed the words, "Peace Accord," and a white dove, and the crowd began to chant his name. But above, inside the silver ship, something changed, a dark panel sliding open like a slow eyelid. The leader leaned closer to the mic. "Friends," he said, "we are not weak for wanting peace. We are strong for offering it." A crack of light flashed from the ship, just a thin needle down the sky. And then everything broke. The beam cut through the podium and through the leader's chest. Glass burst like rain. The mic fell with a squeal. The dove on the screen turned into static snow. The leader staggered, eyes wide and surprised, then crumpled into the arms of his guards, while the crowd screamed, "No!" And some bodies hit the floor, and others ran. A woman shouted, "They killed him!" And a man shouted, "Get down!" And the little girl was crying, "Mama, mama, mama!" The beam ended. The silver ship closed its dark eye and hung silent. Sirens wailed. On the marble steps, a guard pressed the leader's wound with both hands and said, "Stay with me." And another guard yelled into his wrist, "We are under attack." But the leader's head slipped to the side, and his lips moved, and in a voice only the closest guard could hear, he whispered, "It wasn't them." The words were so soft, the guard blinked, confused, and said, "Sir?" And then the leader went still. "He's gone," someone said, and the words spread like fire through dry grass, and it felt like the sky grew heavier. Anger rose behind the fear, thick and hot, and the crowd shouted at the silent ship, "Murderers!" Somewhere, a stone was thrown and clinked off a barrier. On the stage, a woman in a dark suit stepped to the broken podium, face pale, voice shaking, "Evacuate now! All citizens evacuate!" But the people did not move as one. Some froze, some filmed, some prayed. And near the railing, a young journalist kept his camera steady and whispered to himself, "This is the story of the century." But his hands were trembling so hard, the lens tapped the railing. The silver ship did not fire again. It did not move. It simply watched, like a cold star. A second ship appeared from behind a cloud, gunmetal grey, not smooth at all, with plates and seams like it was made fast in panic, and it flashed a red code in human numbers, 911. The journalist zoomed in and whispered, "What are you?" And a voice came over the open airwaves, flat and measured, speaking simple human words with a strange rhythm. "We did not shoot. We are here to help." The stadium speakers crackled, pulling the voice over every seat. People looked up, confused. "Lies!" someone yelled. "We saw the beam!" The alien voice said, "Scan the air." The shot came from below the cloud line. A general in a black uniform grabbed a headset and barked, "Confirm!" And the security drones rose higher, humming. Within seconds, the big screen, still glitching with static, showed a thin smoke trail not from above, but from the top of a nearby museum tower. The trail bent by wind, faint and ugly. The general's jaw clenched. "Find it," he said. The Young journalist, still filming, whispered, "No way." And then he saw it too, the tower's service door hanging open, a shadow moving fast down the stairs. The second ship angled toward the tower, then stopped at the edge of the no-fly rule, like it was obeying human law. A small sphere dropped from its underside and zipped toward the roof like a white seed. "Who are you?" "The woman in the dark," Suit demanded into the scrambled channel. "Identify." The alien voice responded, "Civilian rescue vessel from the Free Vesh Coalition. We tried to warn you the assassin was human." The word human hit the crowd like ice water. "Human?" Someone cried, "No, that's impossible." But the general's eyes had already gone cold. He saw the pattern, the angle, the timing. He saw how the silver envoy ship had been positioned perfectly to take the blame. "Lock the city," he snapped. "Nobody in, nobody out." The journalist whispered, "A false flag," and felt a sickness in his stomach. The little girl from the front row looked up at her mother and asked, "Why would a human do that?" And the mother had no answer. The white sphere reached the roof, froze above it, and projected a clean cone of light that showed the sniper's nest. A hard case half open, a tripod scorched, a compact emitter still glowing. "We are recording," the alien voice said, calm, almost sad. "We will share all data in your court of law." The woman in the suit stared at the dead body of the leader, at the peaceful dove still half visible through static, and her hands curled into fists. "Who sent him?" she asked. The general said, "We will know." His wrist buzzed. A captain's voice hissed, "Sir, we found a vehicle near the tower, plates wiped. Inside we found credentials." A beat. "Private Security, Megacorp." A name was spoken, and the woman in the suit let out a slow breath like a match going out. "They stood to gain," she said. "War contracts, resource rights." The general nodded once. The crowd, sensing a new shape under the terror, shifted, listening again, pointing again. A man with a loud voice shouted, "If it was human, why did the ship fire?" And the journalist lifted his camera to the silver envoy, zooming so close. The hull filled the frame, and he saw it. A thin scorch on the skin of the ship near the opened panel, a wound like a circle around the eye. The panel had forced open from outside, not inside. "They were hacked," he whispered. The Free Vesh voice spoke again, gentle this time. "We are sorry for your loss. We came for peace. Someone wanted war." The woman in the suit looked at the body covered now with a flag, and her voice changed. The tremble was gone. "This is not over," she said. She turned to the general. "Release the envoy. Escort the Free Vesh ship to a secure air lane. If they have proof, we will use it, and get me that tower shooter alive if possible." The general nodded and moved, and the drones shifted, and the crowd began to breathe again. But the night was not done with its tricks. A sharp sound rang from under the stage, a fast triple click that made every guard grab for a weapon, and a hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow passage and a small, battered robot. The robot rolled out, dented, smoky, and lifted a tiny arm. "Message," it said in a childlike voice. "Message from the leader." The woman in the suit knelt, eyes wide. "Play it." The robot's chest opened, and a hologram flickered. Earth's leader, recorded not long ago, eyes serious, voice low. "If you are seeing this," he said, "I have failed, or I have been made to appear to fail. There is a plot to end peace. It comes not only from the stars, but from our own hands." He paused. "Trust the ones who help without demand. Trust the ones who obey our laws even when they could break them. And remember, the enemy will try to make you angry before you can think. Do not give them your mind." The hologram ended. The stadium was so quiet the wind could be heard in the flags. The little girl looked up again. "Is he gone forever?" she asked, and her mother's lips trembled, but the woman in the suit answered instead. "He is gone," she said softly, "but his words are here." She stood and looked at the silver. Ship, at the grey ship, at the tower, at the people. We will mourn, she said, and then we will think. We will not be tricked into fire by those who profit from flames. The journalist finally lowered his camera, tears hot on his face, and whispered, "This is the story, but it is also a warning." The general barked new orders. The crowd began to move in slow, careful lines. The Free Vest ship drifted back, waiting. The envoy held its cold orbit. As the stadium emptied, the robot's light blinked, and it spoke one more line in that small, hopeful voice. He wanted peace. The woman in the suit nodded. "Then we will fight for peace," she said, and for the first time since the beam, the air felt like it could be breathed again. The news spread faster than fire. Within hours, every screen on Earth showed the image of the leader falling, his body cradled by guards, the alien ship above him glowing like a blade. People watched in silence at first, then with screams, then with rage. Cities that had celebrated peace only a day before were now filled with anger and grief. "They killed him!" a man shouted in a crowded street, his face red with fury. "The aliens betrayed us." Others shouted back, "No, it was humans. Did you not see the tower? Did you not hear the recording?" The world was confused, shaken between two truths, both sharp enough to cut. In the dark apartment, a young woman sat in front of her tablet, replaying the leader's final message again and again. She was a student, unknown to anyone, yet she felt the words were meant for her. "Do not give them your mind," the leader had said. She whispered the line under her breath like a prayer. Her brother, older and hot-headed, paced behind her. "Forget his words," he said. "We need action. The aliens will pay for this." The girl looked up, her eyes bright. "What? If he was right? What if they want us angry so we fight blind?" Her brother slammed his fist against the wall. "I don't care. I want revenge." On the other side of the world, generals sat around a long table. The room was filled with maps, drone feeds, and tense voices. "The people demand justice." One said, "If we don't strike, we look weak." Another leaned forward. "If we strike blindly, we play into their hands." That's exactly what the assassin wanted. A third voice, cold and sharp, cut through. "It doesn't matter. The streets are boiling. We need to give the people a target, or they will turn against us." Silence followed, heavy and dangerous. Far above, in orbit, the Free Vest ship floated, in stillness. Its captain, a tall alien with deep silver eyes, spoke to his crew in a language of low tones and soft clicks. "They will blame us," he said. "Even when they know the truth, they will want blood. Be ready to leave." His second officer shook her head. "No, if we run, it will look like guilt. We must stay. We must prove loyalty." The captain looked at Earth, a sphere of blue and green that now seemed to glow with fire. "Then we stay," he agreed, though a shadow crossed his face. In the markets of New Delhi, people smashed windows. In New York, crowds gathered in the squares, holding up signs that read, "Justice for Earth and death to aliens." Fires burned in Berlin, while in small villages far away, people locked their doors and prayed the chaos would not reach them. The world was breaking, pulled apart by fear. A boy with a camera moved through the crowds in London. It was the same journalist who had filmed the assassination. His footage had gone viral, and now people grabbed his shoulders, begging him to tell them the truth. "Was it the aliens?" they demanded. "Did you see them shoot?" He lifted his camera higher and said into the lens, "I saw the beam, but I also saw the tower. Someone wants us divided. If we fight each other, we all lose." Some cheered at his words, others spat at his feet. Suspicion was spreading faster than truth. Inside a hidden bunker, the woman in the dark suit, now acting as interim leader, faced her advisors. Her voice was steady, but her eyes revealed the weight of millions pressing down on her. "We cannot let this spiral into blind war," she said. "The leader's last message was clear. We must think. An old general shook his head. With respect, thinking will not stop the mobs. They will burn the cities unless we give them an enemy. She looked at him, her jaw tight. Then we will give them the real one. Her words were bold, but inside she feared she was too late. That night, as the world turned, a massive explosion tore through a human shipyard in orbit. Thousands of workers were lost in fire. News feeds screamed, "Aliens strike again." People poured into the streets, wilder than before. But in the rubble, investigators found something strange. Shards of a bomb, stamped with human code, manufactured by a private weapons company. Someone had tried to frame the aliens again. The discovery did not stop the anger. Many refused to believe it. "Fake evidence," people shouted. "The aliens are lying to us." The interim leader stood before the cameras, her face pale but firm. "The truth is being twisted," she told the world. "We are under attack, yes, but not only from the stars, from within. Someone is feeding this fire." At that moment, in a secret skyscraper office, a man in a black suit watched her speech with a smile. He was no alien. He was human and rich beyond measure, a lord of contracts and war machines. "Perfect," he whispered to himself. "They tear themselves apart, and we sell them the weapons." Behind him, other men and women in suits raised glasses. "To war," they said and laughed. But outside their walls, the world was not fully broken yet. In the streets, voices began to split. Some demanded vengeance, others demanded truth. Families were divided. Friends argued. The young student clutched her brother's arm and begged, "Don't go to the riots, listen to him. Listen to the leader's last words." Her brother pulled away, shaking with anger. "I will fight." He slammed the door and vanished into the night. She sat alone, whispering to the empty room, "Please, don't let this be the end." In orbit, the Free Vesh captain stood at his window, staring at Earth's storms and oceans. He touched the glass with one hand and murmured, "They will, and come for us soon." His second officer said, "Then we must show them we are allies, not enemies." The captain's eyes darkened. "And if they do not listen?" She answered simply, "Then history will remember." "But at least some will." "No, we tried." The night ended with the world on edge. Fires smoldered, protests thundered, leaders argued. And yet, beneath the chaos, small sparks of hope flickered. A journalist telling the truth, a student holding to her leader's words, and even an alien ship that refused to run. The assassin's bullet had not just killed a man, it had wounded the world. But from that wound, something was growing, something sharp and dangerous. The question of who could be trusted and who wanted humanity to destroy itself. And while the powerful laughed in secret rooms, the people of Earth faced a choice that would decide their future: to follow anger into blind war, or to follow truth into a fight for survival with their eyes open. Deep underground, far from the burning cities and shouting streets, the hidden bunkers of Earth came alive. Engineers, scientists, and soldiers filled the long steel corridors, their footsteps echoing as if the walls themselves were restless. The world above was torn apart by anger, but here in the shadows, another fire burned, the fire of preparation. Humanity was planning something it had never done before, taking the fight to the stars. A young scientist named Clara adjusted her goggles, staring at the wreckage of a small alien drone laid out on a table. Its silver frame pulsed faintly, as if it still held secrets. "We cracked the code," she whispered, her hands trembling with excitement. "If we link this tech with our own ships, we can bend light, just like them." An older engineer grunted. "Bend light or not, it won't matter if we don't build fast. War doesn't wait." Across the hall, soldiers trained with new weapons, rifles that hummed with energy, grenades that glowed faint blue. The instructor barked at them. "These are not toys. They are answers to a question we never wanted asked. The aliens thought we were weak. Show them we are not." The men and women shouted back in unison, the sound sharp and furious. Meanwhile, in a dim control room, the interim leader stood with the general, studying a hologram of Earth's orbit. Dozens of red points blinked, marking known alien positions. "We can't wait for them to come again," she said, her voice low but firm. "If we sit still, they will strike when we are weakest. We must carry the war to them." The general nodded, though his face was lined with worry. "Our people are divided. Some demand peace, some demand blood. If we strike, we may unite them, or we may break them further." She met his gaze. "Then we strike carefully. A plan no one expects, a plan they cannot stop." In another corner of the bunker, the journalist who had filmed the assassination was given access to the preparations. He recorded silently, his camera capturing the spark in tired eyes, the sweat on determined faces. "The world must see this," he told a guard. The guard shook his head. "Not yet. If they know too soon, panic will eat us alive." The journalist lowered his camera, but his heart raced. He had seen truth twisted before. He feared it could happen again. Above ground, rumors grew like weeds. "The government is building secret weapons," people whispered in cafes and alleys. "They're planning revenge." In the student's apartment, she argued again with her brother. "Revenge will not bring him back," she said. He shook his head. "But it will stop them from killing more." His eyes were hard now, almost unrecognizable. She pressed her hand against his. "What if the real enemy is still among us? What if humans are the ones pulling the strings?" He pulled away. "Then I'll kill them too." He walked out, leaving her in silence. Back in orbit, the Free Vesh ship still floated, waiting, watched by human satellites and guns. The captain knew the humans were planning something. He told his crew, "When they strike, they may not see the difference between us and their enemies." His second officer asked, "Do we run?" He shook his head. "No. If we run, the liars win. We must stay close, even if they fire at us." The crew looked uneasy, but no one argued. The secret plan took shape. In the largest hangar, the new fleet stood ready, ships patched with alien technology, glowing faintly as if alive. The general walked between them, his boots ringing on the metal floor. "You were born from wreckage and fire," he said to the ships, as if they could hear him. "Now you will carry our fury." Clara, the scientist, wiped sweat from her brow and whispered, "Please don't break. Please fly." The interim leader called her council together. "We strike first," she declared. "Not with invasion, but with proof. We capture one of their strongholds. We show the galaxy we can fight. And we show the traitors among us that their lies will not stand." Some around the table nodded with grim smiles. Others looked pale, but none dared speak against her. The night before launch, the journalist found himself walking the hangar floor, camera in hand. He whispered into the lens, "The world doesn't know it yet. But tomorrow we leave Earth. Tomorrow we show the stars that humans will not kneel." He turned off the camera and sighed. But will they ever forgive us if this is the wrong step? At dawn, the fleet prepared. Soldiers hugged families for what might be the last time. Scientists whispered to their machines like parents sending children into war. The interim leader stood before them, her voice carried by speakers across the hangar. "They took our leader. They tried to break us. Instead, they made us strong. Tonight we rise." The engines roared, shaking the ground. Ships lifted into the air, fire spilling from their thrusters. Children pointed from rooftops, eyes wide with both awe and fear. The student watched from her window, tears streaking her face. "Please come back," she whispered. Her brother, now wearing a soldier's uniform, marched onto one of the ships, his jaw set. As the fleet climbed into the sky, satellites caught movement. Alien scouts on the edge of the system, waiting like wolves. The general's eyes narrowed. "They know," he muttered. The interim leader said, "Then let them see. Let them know Earth does not bow." The first human fleet left Earth that day, a storm rising into the dark. Behind them, the planet trembled with both pride and fear. Ahead of them, The void opened like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. And somewhere in the shadows of space, those who had plotted the assassination watched with cold satisfaction. "They take the bait," one whispered. "Now the real game begins." But on Earth, in a small room filled with silence, the student clutched her leader's last words, close to her heart. "Do not give them your mind," she whispered again. She prayed the fighters remembered those words too, even as they carried humanity's fury into the stars. The human fleet moved like a storm of fireflies against the darkness of space, their engines glowing, their hulls patched with alien technology that hummed with strange energy. Inside the lead ship, the general stood tall, his hands behind his back, watching the stars stretch out in silence. He could feel the tension in every breath of his crew. They were stepping into the unknown, and everyone knew the first battle would decide whether humanity was predator or prey. "Contact!" shouted a young officer. Her eyes wide as red signals blinked across the hollow screen. Small alien craft, sharp and curved like blades, emerged from the shadow of Jupiter's rings. They spread quickly, circling the human fleet. The general's voice stayed calm. "Hold formation. Do not fire until I say." His words rippled through the comms, steadying nervous hands. In one of the smaller ships, a soldier's voice cracked. Over the radio, "They're surrounding us. What are we waiting for?" His commander snapped back, "We wait for the order. Control your fear. That is how we win." The soldier bit his lip, his fingers shaking over the trigger. The alien ships moved closer. Their hulls shimmered as if bending light, slipping in and out of sight. Clara, the scientist, leaned over her console, heart racing. "They're using cloaking fields, but we can track their energy spikes. If we time it right, we can catch them." The general's eyes narrowed. "Good. Prepare the new weapons. Let them think we are blind." The silence broke with a sudden flash. An alien craft fired, the beams slicing past the human flagship and, tearing through a smaller vessel, the ship exploded in a burst of fire, pieces scattering like glowing ash. Cries filled the comms. "They hit the Dauntless, survivors in pods." The general's voice cut through the panic. "Return fire. Show them Earth does not run." The fleet answered with fury. Blue beams shot from human cannons, arcs of energy, lancing through the dark. One alien craft shimmered, then burst apart, its hull cracking like glass. Another dodged, only to be caught by a human missile that exploded with a roar of light. Soldiers cheered, voices breaking through the comms. "We got them, we can win!" But victory was fragile. The aliens counterattacked, their ships weaving with deadly grace. Two more human vessels were struck, one splitting in half, its crew screaming before the void swallowed their voices. The journalist, aboard a mid-sized carrier, kept his camera steady even as alarms blared. "This is humanity's first war in the stars," he whispered, sweat dripping down his face, "and it may be our last." In the chaos, Clara shouted, "Now, trigger the cloaking counterfield." A pulse of light spread from the flagship, invisible to the eye but sharp to the senses. One by one, alien ships flickered into full view, their cloaks broken. "Target them!" the general barked. Cannons roared, missiles screamed. The aliens were no longer ghosts, they were prey. The tide began to turn. Human ships, though battered, fought with reckless courage. One pilot laughed through bloodied lips as he rammed his damaged fighter into an alien craft, taking both down in a blazing death spiral. "For Earth!" His last words echoed in the comms before silence. Soldiers who heard him felt their anger rise like fire, their shots sharper, their courage harder. But then, a shadow larger than all the rest fell over the battlefield. A massive alien cruiser emerged from behind Jupiter, its hull black and spiked, dwarfing the human fleet, the comms filled with gasps. "What is that?" Clara's face went pale. "It's not a scout, it's a warship." The general clenched his fists. "All ships, regroup, focus fire on that cruiser. If we fall here, Earth falls next." The human fleet fired everything they had. Missiles streaked, beams burned, the cruiser's shield shimmered, holding for agonizing seconds before cracking. A hole tore open in its side, flames spilling into the void. Soldiers cheered, but the cheer died as the cruiser retaliated. A single broadside ripped through 3 human ships in one shot, turning them into fireballs. The fleet staggered. On the journalist's carrier, explosions shook the halls. He clung to his camera, whispering, "If we don't make it, let this record survive. Let history know we fought." Around him, medics dragged the wounded, smoke filling the corridors. Clara's voice rose over the chaos. "The cruiser's core is unstable. If we hit it at the right angle, we can make it collapse." The general nodded sharply. "Do it." Clara's hands flew across controls, sending targeting data to every ship. "Aim for the scar on its side." The fleet obeyed. Dozens of beams focused on the wound in the cruiser's hull. The alien giant trembled, sparks spraying from its engines. For a moment, it looked like it would recover. Then, with a deep rumble that seemed to echo even in the vacuum, the cruiser exploded. A sun blooming in the black sky. Shards of fire spread across space, lighting up the human ships like stars. The comms erupted in cheers, but the general's face stayed hard. "Do not celebrate. Count our dead." Reports came in. Half the fleet was gone. Thousands of lives lost. Yet humanity had survived its first clash. More than that, they had won. In the silence that followed, the Free Vesh captain watched from a distance, his silver eyes heavy with sorrow. "They bleed like us," he murmured. His second officer asked, "Will they forgive us for what has passed?" The captain shook his head. "Not yet, but perhaps one day." On Earth, news of the battle spread. Some wept, some cheered. The student saw her brother's face flash on a memorial list, and her tears fell onto her hands. She whispered, "You fought with fury, but who tricked you into this war?" In the hidden skyscraper office, the man in the black suit raised a glass again, smiling. "Perfect," he said. "Every battle, every death, more profit for us." His partners laughed, blind to the seeds they had sown. But in space, among the wreckage and ashes, the general stood at the viewport, voice low and steady. "This is only the beginning," he said. "They struck us first. Now they will learn what it means to wake the fury of Earth." The galaxy shuddered with the news. Word of the battle near Jupiter spread across trade routes, military outposts, and hidden channels. Aliens, who had once spoken of humans as primitive, now whispered another word: dangerous. The fall of the alien cruiser had been captured on countless scanners, and the fireball still echoed in the minds of those who saw it. What was supposed to be a warning strike had instead become a legend. On Earth, the interim leader stood before a crowd that stretched as far as the eye could. "See?" Her voice was steady, though her eyes revealed exhaustion. "They thought we would kneel," she declared. "But we rose. They thought we would break. Instead, we united. Let the stars remember this day. Earth does not bow." The crowd roared, voices rising like thunder. Yet behind the applause was grief. Families clutched photos of loved ones lost. In the first strike, mothers held children and whispered, "Your father died a hero." The victory was real, but the cost was heavier than stone. In alien palaces across the stars, fear rippled. The High Court of the Empire gathered in their shining hall, walls carved with centuries of triumphs. A tall noble slammed his clawed hand against the table. "This is impossible. They were not meant to stand against us." Another, older, narrowed his eyes. "You underestimated them. You mistook hunger for weakness, but hunger can turn to fire." Whispers spread among the gathered rulers. If humans could kill a cruiser, what else could they do? Meanwhile, the Free Vesh coalition debated in secret. In a chamber dimly lit by blue crystals, their captain spoke to his council. "The humans are strong, but they are surrounded by enemies. If we do not help them, the Empire will crush them completely. A younger officer shook his head. Help them and we share their war. Stay silent and we survive. The captain's silver eyes glinted. No, if they fall, we are next. The humans fight not only for themselves, they fight for all who have ever been enslaved. In the shadows of Earth's cities, whispers spread differently. The journalist uploaded his footage of the first strike, showing not just the battle, but the desperate faces of those who fought and died. His voice narrated, "They call this a victory, but look at the cost. Who profits from this war?" His words sparked debate. Some hailed him as a truth-teller, others cursed him as a traitor. Yet slowly, more began to ask the question, who had truly wanted the assassination that started it all? Inside a skyscraper office, the man in the black suit poured wine into a glass, smiling at the flames of battle shown on his private screens. "Perfect," he whispered to his partners. "Fear grows, contracts rise. The galaxy buys our weapons, and Earth leads the way." A woman beside him asked, "And if the truth comes out?" He smirked. "Truth is a tool. People believe what we show them. Let them drown in anger. That is profit." Their laughter echoed through the room, blind to the storm brewing outside their walls. Far from Earth, the human fleet pressed forward. The general stood on the flagship, gazing at maps filled with alien strongholds. "Every battle makes us stronger," he said to Clara, who worked beside him. "Every weapon we take from them becomes ours." Clara nodded, though her face was pale. "But every life we lose is irreplaceable. We must not forget that." The general's jaw tightened. "We won't forget, but we cannot stop now." Their next strike was not against a warship, but a supply station deep in alien territory. The human fleet moved with silence, hiding behind asteroid fields. Soldiers whispered prayers, their hands tightening on rifles. When the station came into view, glowing like a lantern in the dark, the general gave the order. "Take it. No survivors." The attack was swift, brutal, and final. Within hours, the station was burning, its wreckage turning slowly in the void. The message was clear. Humanity had teeth. The galaxy trembled again. Smugglers spoke in hushed tones of human raids. Alien commanders warned their troops, "Do not underestimate them." Even the Empire's own soldiers began to mutter. One said quietly, "If they fight with such fury after losing one leader, what will they do if we kill another?" On Earth, the student sat by the window, holding her brother's picture. He had died in the first strike, his name now etched in memorial stone. She whispered, "You gave your life, but who used you? Who turned your anger into a weapon?" Her voice was soft, but her eyes hardened with each word. "I will find the truth." That night, hidden messages flickered across dark networks. A shadow group sent warnings. "The corporations feed the war. The assassin was no alien. The enemy is closer than you think." Some dismissed it as lies. Others began to listen. Seeds of doubt sprouted in the cracks of blind rage. In the Empire's council chamber, panic deepened. Reports arrived of human. Ships pushing farther than expected, striking faster than predicted. A frightened noble whispered, "If they grow stronger, they could topple us." Another hissed, "Then we must end them now, before their fury spreads." The High Lord rose, his cloak sweeping the floor. "So be it. Gather the fleets. If Earth wants war, then war they shall have." The order sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Massive fleets stirred in alien docks, preparing for a storm. But even as they readied themselves, the whispers of fear spread faster than fire. "The humans are coming." On Earth, the interim leader addressed her council once more. "We are no longer fighting for survival," she said. "We are fighting for the future of the galaxy. If the Empire falls, others will rise with us. But if we fall, the stars will be chained forever." Her words carried weight, heavy and sharp, and those who heard them knew there was no turning back. The journalist, watching from the shadows, muttered to himself, "They are making legends out of ashes." He lifted his camera again, but his eyes were haunted. The people deserved truth, not just glory. Above the planet, the fleet returned with stolen weapons and burning scars. Soldiers stepped out of their ships, greeted by cheers, but their faces were pale with loss. One whispered to another, "We killed them, we won, but why does it feel like we're losing ourselves?" The other had no answer. And so the galaxy trembled. Empires whispered, corporations plotted, families grieved, and in the dark, Earth's fury grew louder. What had begun as an assassination had become a storm shaking the stars, a storm no one could control. The humans had risen, and the galaxy now feared the fire they carried. The stars burned with war. Across the galaxy, fleets moved like storms, colliding in fire and ruin. Humanity, once seen as weak and divided, had become a force that even ancient empires feared. The interim leader watched the reports from orbit, her face carved with exhaustion, but her eyes still fierce. "Every victory comes with loss," she whispered to the general beside her, "but every loss hardens us." The general nodded, though his shoulders were heavy. "We are not the same people we were. We fight with fury, but fury can burn us too." His voice was low, almost a warning, but she only turned back to the stars. In a hidden control room far from Earth, the man in the black suit watched with delight as profits climbed higher. Weapons flowed to every side, corporations feeding on chaos. "Beautiful," he said, raising his glass. "We built this war, and it will never end." His partners laughed, but their laughter was thin. They did not notice the shadows moving outside their walls. The journalist had found them. Camera in hand, he whispered into the recorder, "Here lies the real enemy. Not alien, not soldier. Human greed." He slipped deeper into the building, every step heavy with danger. Meanwhile, the Free Vesh captain stood at his ship's window, staring at the human fleet as it prepared for the largest strike yet. His second officer asked, "Do they even know who their true enemy is?" The captain's silver eyes dimmed. "Not yet. But they will. Truth has a way of breaking through fire." The fleet gathered near the edge of alien space, hundreds of ships glowing like a wall of stars. Soldiers spoke in hushed voices, some praying, others laughing to hide their fear. Clara moved between consoles, making last checks. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. "If we use their own weapons against them, their empire will fall faster than they imagine." A young soldier near her asked, "And when the empire falls, what then?" She paused. "Then we see if humanity can rule without becoming the monster we fought." The battle began with no warning. Alien fleets poured from hyperspace, their ships vast and endless. The human fleet answered with everything they had, the void exploding with light. Beams crossed beams, missiles streaked like comets, and ships died in silence. The journalist's voice carried over a hidden channel as he uploaded footage from the corporation's lair. "Listen, people of Earth, this war was planted. The assassin was not alien. It was paid for, built and ordered by men who profit from death." His words spread faster than the war itself, rushing across networks, breaking into homes, screens and minds. For the first time since the assassination, the people stopped and listened. On Earth, the student heard the broadcast. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, I knew my brother was used." She pressed her hand to the screen and said, "If truth has come, then maybe his death was not in vain." Around her, voices rose. "The corporations did this. The aliens were not alone." Anger shifted, no longer blind but sharp, pointed at the true conspirators. In the skyscraper office, alarms blared as angry crowds surged outside. The man in the black suit dropped his glass, his smile breaking for the first time. "How?" he hissed. "How did they find us?" His partner's face drained of color. "The journalist." Before they could flee, the doors burst open and soldiers stormed inside. The truth was no longer hidden. Back in space, the battle reached its peak. The human fleet pushed through the alien lines, every ship battered, every soldier fighting with fire. The alien flagship loomed ahead, black and terrible, its guns glowing with death. The general's voice filled the comms. "This is the heart. Strike it and the Empire trembles. Fail and Earth burns." Clara guided the fleet's weapons, her voice shaking. "Target the core, now!" Beams cut through the alien giant, tearing holes in its hull. The flagship staggered, engines flaring, but it fired one last devastating shot. The blast ripped into the human flagship, shaking it to its bones. The general clutched the railing, blood on his face, but he did not fall. "Push forward," he roared. "For Earth!" The final salvo struck. The alien flagship cracked apart, its pieces glowing like dying suns. Silence followed, heavy and unreal. Then cheers burst across the comms, voices roar with triumph and grief. "They're falling! The Empire is breaking!" On distant worlds, alien leaders trembled as news arrived. Entire planets rose in rebellion, inspired by humanity's defiance. Chains broke, thrones cracked. The empire that had ruled for centuries began to crumble, not just from war, but from fear of the humans who refused to kneel. Yet even in victory, unease spread. Clara looked out at the wreckage and whispered, "We have won the battle, but what will we become now?" The general heard her and said quietly, "That is the real war. The war for our soul." On Earth, the interim leader faced the people. Behind her, the journalist's evidence played across giant screens, showing the corporation's betrayal. The crowd's anger was fierce, but this time it was not blind. They demanded justice, not against aliens, not against neighbors, but against those who had twisted truth for profit. The leader raised her hand. "We were deceived, but we are not broken. We are not puppets. We are humanity, and we will never kneel to lies again." The crowd roared, not just with rage, but with hope. For the first time since the assassination, the air on Earth felt alive with something more than grief. It felt like awakening. In the quiet after the war, the student sat at her window, holding her brother's photo. She whispered, "They will remember you, not as a pawn, but as proof that we fought, that we rose, and that we learned." She looked up at the stars, no longer afraid. The galaxy had changed. Empires trembled, conspiracies shattered, and humanity stood taller than ever before. What began as one man's death had become the spark of a legend, and the stars themselves whispered the new truth. Earth does not bow. Earth does not break. Earth burns with fury, and fury had reshaped the galaxy forever.